Today, today is our last class. Okay, so the remaining concepts in ASP.NET are like ASP.NET authentication as well as ASP.NET authentication and authorization. Then we have handlers and modules, and then user controls, Ajax controls. So these are the things we are left with. So we will discuss about these things today. Okay, so we'll start with authentication. What is authentication? So the authentication means mainly is the process of verifying the identity of a user by obtaining some sort of credentials and using those credentials to verify the user's identity. If the credentials are valid, the authorization process starts. So authentication and authorization, these are two different aspects in any programming language. Okay, authentication means mainly verifying a user identity. So verifying a user identity means, so you are a student of a college. So how you will be identified as a student of that particular college? So you will be issued some ID. Okay, and then you will be issued with some access card. So with these two identifications, you will be treated as a valid student of that particular college. Okay, so to enter into that college, maybe anyone can enter. Okay, but to main your classroom and your labs, whatever. So these some restricted areas are there. So to get into those rooms, you should have some access permissions. Okay, so that is first of all, you should be allowed to enter inside the college by your identity. Okay, by using your identity card or your access card, so that you can get into your office or college, whatever. Then the once your identity is validated, means you are identified as a valid student of that particular college, then you are restricted to some areas. So the access privileges, we call it as access permissions. So access permissions means you may have a say, so if you are a computer student, you may be having only access to your computer lab, not like so electronics lab or mechanical lab or civil engineering labs. So these labs you cannot visit as you are a computer student. So that's where the authorization comes. Authentication means validating your identity, and authorization means uh, your identity is valid only to access particular set of areas. Okay, so in our ASP.NET, the thing is authentication means, so normally any website you can see, you have to provide your username and password. Okay, so this is your identity, and then the permissions means, so if you are running some so you are developing some e-commerce application for a shopping mall, so that shopping mall will have two set of users. One is the shopping mall side staff, they can access the website. The same time the public can also access the website. So these two set of users will be there. So the office side, okay, shopping mall side, the staff, they can log into that website and they can add the products into that website, whereas public user is not permitted to that particular page. Okay, got it? So you will have some set of pages is only accessible for a particular group of users based on their role or their user ID and password. So they can access only a particular area on that web application. Okay, whereas some public users, they will have access to some other set of pages. So this is called authorization. Authentication means anyone can open that website, and whoever once they logged in, based on their accessibility permissions, they will be given access to a set of pages. That's what authorization. Got it? Is it clear or any doubts? Okay, so that is authentication and authorization. So ASP.NET also implements this authentication and authorization in following ways. Okay, so the authentication in ASP.NET is further divided into, or the authentication is implemented in three different ways. One is Windows authentication, another is Forms authentication, finally passport authentication. Okay, by all the means you have to, all the three ways you have to enter your user ID and password. Okay, so you should have to enter your user ID and password, but these are three different techniques you can implement authentication on your ASP.NET applications. Okay, so the very first thing we will discuss about, and fourth one is no authentication, that is none. You can say that authentication mode none. So this authentication you can set in your web.config file. Okay, so far we developed a website. Okay, this website is having a web.config file. Okay, here under system.web you can get a particular tag, that is authentication, and mode you can implement like federated, forms, none, passport, and windows. So this federated, this is recently introduced in ASP.NET. Okay, federated means this is just used in single sign-on applications. That is entirely a different concept. Okay, so no need to discuss about that. And Windows authentication. So we will discuss about Windows authentication. So none we will discuss first. Okay, by default the authentication mode is none. Means there is no authentication implemented on your site. In that case, you need not to mention this tag at all. Okay, so what we can do is this authentication mode we have set none, means anyone can access my website without any user ID and password. Okay, that is the thing you are saying. So all the pages on your website anybody can access. So a best example for this is a news site application. So some newspaper, they are publishing their news day-wise on their website, so that everybody can, without any registration, they can access the website and they can see the pages, the news on the website. Okay, that is anonymous authentication. So there is nothing need to enter any user ID or password. Okay, that is one case. Or any website, if you see the home, about us, contact us, and their services, and even the registration page, login page, all these pages you can access without any user ID and password. Why? Because they have to be accessed so that users can register on those pages. Okay, that is one thing for anonymous access. And then we have the authentication mode Windows. Windows means if you mention Windows, the authentication mode. Okay, so what it will do is by default it takes your Windows login ID and password. So in SQL Server case, you have seen already there is Windows authentication or SQL Server authentication. So Windows authentication means it takes your, so first time when you switch on your laptop, okay, that time you will give a password. So login ID and password. So these are the default ID and password for your Windows machine. So whatever user ID and password the currently logged in user, that user's ID and password will be taken by your IAS server automatically, and it sends those credentials to the user, the application, and in the application we can access the user identity by using some identity. Is there some object? Okay, http context dot identity object is there. From that we can access the currently logged in user information, and that user roles and everything you have to define manually on your database. Okay, permissions means what pages he can access and what is his role. These things you have to define on your machine, on your database. particularly, so that the user will be restricted to access those set of pages. Okay, only this authentication that provides the identity. Identity means user login information. Login information means only with which ID you are logging in. It can be like something like John Doy, that is a username somebody logs in. So that ID will be passed from that identity principal object. Okay, that is Windows authentication. Okay, so to explain this, actually we need two or three machines actually. So that's why I am not able to explain, and even forms authentication or passport authentication. So I am giving theory part. Okay, and what authentication has to implement on your web applications, and these things will be decided by your application architect. Okay, the very first time when the application requirement comes to your company, that company, that project handling team lead and architects, they will decide which authentication mode we will go with. But I can give you the examples. Okay, which scenarios, what will be the best. Okay, so Windows authentication, this is very useful when you are developing an application for organization purpose. Okay, so I can give you an example. So when you are your college website, if you want to develop your college website, so that is only accessible for the college internally, not for external use. Only the students and the staff, they can access. No others they cannot access, only students and your college staff. And the public pages, that's okay, everybody can access to log in and see like your marks list, your attendance, and even your fee details, your course details, everything. If you are developing a website that is only for your organization internal purpose, that time you can use Windows authentication. So that, just a minute guys, just a second. So that scenario, so whenever you want to develop an application for your college, that time, so you might be given some credentials to access college server. Okay, those Windows authentication, that time you will be grant. So all those Windows machines to access whatever system in your college, you might be given already some credentials. Okay, the same credentials you can use to access your site outside also. So that time your college will maintain some database for users. Okay, that is Windows application. That time your machine learning you can use. Okay, in that scenarios, or if you join any company, they will give some ID and password to your machine to access your machine. So that time, in that scenarios, Windows authentication is useful. Okay, so next, forms authentication. So whatever you are using, you have to change this. Okay, this is Windows authentication. If you change it to forms, this is forms authentication. And even Okay, forms you have in forms authentication, you have to give the login URL or default URL. Okay, login URL means whenever there is, so yesterday we discussed about sessions and other things. So if the session ends and your application, so the session ends means you are signed into an application and your session got end. At that time it will be asking you to log in again. So how is it possible means, so by the time your application timeout, okay, that session timeout happens, by default your forms authentication will redirect to the login URL whatever you mentioned here. Okay, login.aspx. So in this login.aspx page you might be giving, okay, you might be giving your URL, and in that login.aspx page you might be developing your login functionality, and you can mention your credentials here itself. Okay, credentials, user name equal to something I can give, and password I can give something. Okay, so like this I can give whatever users are here, these users will be validated. Okay, the login will be taken from this. Okay, automatically takes from this, and a session object will be created. Okay, like this you can add the users here, otherwise you can maintain the user base from your database. So from your SQL server you can keep all the user IDs and passwords. From there you can add, from there you can validate the forms authentication. Okay, and you can maintain all the users in a database. So this forms authentication is commonly used in public facing websites like Facebook, Gmail, or MSN, Live, wherever. So why means, so the user IDs and passwords, they are maintained in a separate database. From that database, all the validations will happen. Okay, so and this forms authentication is very useful. So you are giving the login.aspx page. So whenever the page expires, the session expires, that time the forms authentication by defaultly or automatically it takes you to the login page. Okay, so that's the forms authentication. And then we have passport authentication. You can change here that passport authentication, so it is giving all the options, right? So passport authentication, this passport authentication is another form. This is very less used. Okay, I can say this is only 10% of the website. In nowadays I think nothing is using, I never seen a website using this mode, because this passport authentication mode is, so your Microsoft provides some public user profiles. Okay, so if you have an Outlook account, you can log in directly using that Outlook account. Okay, so MSN was maintaining all the user database earlier. So as it is a Microsoft product, so all the Microsoft users, they can log in. All the Microsoft users, if you want to give the access by default to your website, that time you can use passport authentication. Any doubts on this? So these are the authentication and authorization. So that is manually you have to implement, because those roles and the permissions. So as I told, some, so in any e-commerce application, one guy is assigned the task to add the products and managing the stock. Okay, managing the stock means the product availability they have to check, and new products they have to add, and the pricing they have to manage, everything they have to do. So all these things can be assigned to a role, particular role. Means a user, the role can be storekeeper, something like that. So there may be two or three storekeepers. So based on their role, they can access only manage products, manage pages, like manage prices, okay, manage stock. These kind of pages they can access. Apart from that, they can't access some reports like daily sales and all. Okay, based on their role, they can access. So that you have to implement logically from your side. So that is authorization. Okay. So any doubts on this? Are you guys are clear? So authorization, if you want to give, you can give by URL authorization. URL authorization maps users and roles to URLs in ASP.NET applications. As I told now, so a particular set of pages can be accessed. File authorization means what you can do is the file authorization you can define so particular folders. So some file systems they can access. Okay, that one in web.config file you have authorize attribute. So from here you can define your roles, administrators. So administrator, other than administrators, no one can access a particular folder. That path you can define in your system.web itself. Okay, authorization here allow. So roles you can define administrator. Okay, or you want to allow a particular users also set of users, you can specify them by giving comma separated. Okay, you can give like that, or if you want to deny some set of users, you can deny roles users. Okay, like this. And even okay, for particular folders you can give that. Let me check that option. Lock item, you in verbs you can give the path actually. Okay, verbs is different. Configure source items. Okay, this one I will tell you tomorrow. Actually, you can what you can do is you can restrict. I have some folders here, models, app data, something like this. So these folders, for this particular folder, if you want to give access to a set of users, you can define that authorization. Okay, the other important thing here is, so to maintain all this user database and roles, everything, if you don't, so by default Microsoft provides some schema. Okay, that schema you can enable by going to your program files. Here Microsoft, okay, Visual Studio, common IDE.IDE. Where is that? Hmm. So just a second guys, I will tell you. So by default, Microsoft provides the tools like you can install the database, that framework version where it is. So in Microsoft.NET, you will get ASP.NET membership database. Okay, that you can directly, or else let me search on Google. So see Windows Microsoft.NET. So I have to go to C Windows Microsoft.NET here, framework version folder. Here, what is the file name? ASP.NET ResSQL. So this is the path. C Windows Microsoft.NET Framework 64 or 32 according to your machine configuration and the version, framework version, and you will get this file ASP.NET underscore res SQL.exe. If you run this setup wizard, it will take you, so it is just again it will install a database on your machine. Okay, next, this is my server using Windows authentication. So default database if you want, otherwise you can give some name, membership, ASP membership. Okay, next, it will create automatically the database and all the tables will be created for us by this tool. Any number of times you can create this one. Okay, for a new database means if you are running a new if you are developing a new application, you can set up your database or you can start your application by using this tool. You can start your membership database. Okay, from here all the identity everything will be provided by your ASP.NET itself. So if we see this ASP membership by databases, so you can see ASP membership got created in this. You can see the tables. So applications, membership, paths, personalization users. Let me expand it. Okay, personalization users, personalization per user. Okay, ASP.NET profile, roles, schema versions, users in roles, web events. Okay, so by using all this database, what we can do is we can create users, you can set the roles and permissions, everything, and you can configure your web.config to connect from this membership database, and it provides all the authentication and authorization values by default. Okay, you need not to write a single line of code to generate these many tables. So provisionally people they don't use this, but for normal and very simple applications you can use this template. Okay, any doubts on this or you guys are clear? Okay, I hope you guys are clear. Okay, that is ASP.NET authentication and authorization. Okay, next we have user controls. So these user controls are very common in ASP.NET. So a user control is nothing but a ASP. It is the code wise everything. It is nothing but an ASPX page, but the extension will be some ASCX. CX means controls. Okay, so how we can do is add new item and go to web. That's okay, fine. Just check for ASCX extension file. Okay, dynamic data field, that's okay. So user control, it should be, so maybe that name got changed. So web form user control. Okay, these were earlier user controls from framework, from Visual Studio 2013. They changed the name. Otherwise, earlier this was only user control. Okay, now they changed it to web form user control. So this is nothing but nothing like your ASPX page only. Okay, what we can do is display, okay, sample user control. I am giving the name, and if you see the source and everything here, it was page. If you take any ASPX page, okay, so this is my ASPX page, this is ASCX page. Okay, ASP.NET control page and ASP.NET page. Okay, so if you see here, this is page and here it is control. Remaining all are same. Okay, why it is different and what is the use of user control is, so in a page you may be showing something common. So a same set of controls you want to display over number of pages. So this is not a master page. Master page is to keep the common layout across some pages. You can use master page. But this is a part of your page. Okay, that can be used in many pages. This is not a layout. Okay, and this is useful when so what I can do is whenever the example what I can give you is, so in Facebook wherever you may go, there is no example there. Okay, so okay, on web application, whatever page you go, there you can see some sort of control like add friend. So when you click on that, it may open some pop-up and it will allow you to add your friends. Okay, that control will, that set of controls, add friend means first name, last name, email ID, email ID, mobile number, and address, something like that. You have to prepare some controls. Okay, that set of controls you will keep in some panel. Okay, that panel you want to display over some pages. Okay, some set of pages. So that time what you will do is you create a user control for that. Okay, this user control will have that set of fields only, and this user control you will reuse wherever it is required. Master page by default, if you apply, it will be available for all the pages. But this control, whichever page you want, you can add for that, and it will, the set of fields only will be displayed there. Okay, this is for reusability. Got it? So this is something, and I will add few controls here. So a label I will add, and I will put welcome to user control. Okay, and then I will add, let me go to design mode. So as usual I will add first name, drag and drop the text box, last name, email ID. Okay, this much is enough, and let me add a button. So this is the button, and let me change the properties. So PTA add. Okay, so if I click, it will generate events and everything like my normal page, but this is a user control. This can be reused in any number of pages. So this control is added here. Okay, and my list view page is here already. what I can do is, so sample user control is here. What I will do, I will just drag and drop this control here. So you can see the controls whatever are there in my sample dot, okay, ASX page, all this first name, welcome to user control, everything got copied here. And the code, when you click this button, the event will be filed inside this class. Okay, this is user control. Okay, this one, let me put it here. Okay, this is my user control. Like this I can add it to any number of pages, but what it will do is it will generate, so that is a user control, and you that will have some prefix. So in all ASP.NET Server controls, they will have their own prefixes, tag prefixes or tag names. So for all ASP.NET controls, the tag names will be like your ASP and then colon the list view or button, like that. So when you generate a user control, that user control you can give the tag name whatever you want, and the reference source will be this control path, the file path, and then tag prefix you can use UC1. Here my tag prefix is ASP and control name is list view. If you see here, end of my page, that sample control is added like this. And finally, if you see in design mode, it is completely replaced with the controls whichever I kept here. If I run this also, you can see the same control sets. And this control you can add into any number of pages. Okay, that's the advantage of password manager. Okay, that web.config file, some issue. So authentication, authorization. So like this, you can see the controls are displayed. So you cannot run this user control directly. That is another thing. You cannot run this user control directly. You have to add this user control to any of the ASPX pages. Then only you can see the user control. Okay, and the coding wise, everything this is same like your ASPX page. Only thing is it can be reused across other pages. Okay, and you cannot run it directly. That is only the limitation. Okay, if you want to use some set of controls repeatedly or some pages, the user controls are best choice. Any doubts on this user control? Okay, fine. Next is Ajax. So Ajax is very popular nowadays. So first it evolved somewhere around 2000, year 2000. Okay, and that too when Google they established very first time the Gmail and Google, they got very popular because of this Ajax. Okay, so I can demonstrate you one thing. So if I click on this button, you see this page is getting refreshed. Okay, so this page is refreshing. Why means all these buttons they are of type submit. So all if the button type is submit, the data will be submitted to the self-submitted. Means the data will be submitted to a new page or it will be submitted to the same page. Means the page has to refresh. So it has to request to the same page again by means of get, post, put or delete with this HTTP request. Okay, all the web pages works on two methods, two major action methods. They are get and post. Okay, so whenever you click on a submit button, either it will get the page or it will post the data to that particular page via HTTP protocol. Okay, so when you click this button add, it submits the data. Submits the data means whatever input controls are there on my page, all those controls data will be posted to the same page. Means it will request the same page again with the data user entered. Okay, so it is requesting. So requesting means this entire page. So I want to submit only whatever values here. Okay, something like this I entered. Okay, so if I enter, I want to submit only these three values, not this entire page. Okay, so it won't submit anyway these values, but when it submitted, so as I told earlier, each page is self-submitted. In ASP.NET, all the pages are self-submitted. Self-submitted means this, when I click this button, it will submit this data to the same page, list samples.aspx page only. So in my list samples.aspx page, it has submitting to the same page means the page, it is requesting the same page again to load. So this page will be loaded again. Okay, loaded again means to load this page again, this page is having this list view. This list view is displaying some data. So it has to request database to get all this data and this control level and these labels, buttons, everything. Apart from these three controls, it has to fetch all other information and it has to display. This is really a big problem when you think. So why do you need to reload entire page? While you are submitting only three fields data, why you want to reload entire data? So if my list view is having some 1 lakh records of data, 1 lakh records of data means, so each record is of 1 KB, 1 lakh KB. Okay, some 100 millions KB of data means how much it is. So 100 nearly some 100 MB data. So 100 MB data every time whenever you just click a button, 100 MB of data every time it is loading means, so see, if it is a lower network it cannot load that much data very often, and your data, so your internet is having some limit per month. Okay, that limit exhausts. If you run some applications like this, so exhaust also okay, fine. If your bandwidth is very low, so to load 100 MB of data, your page will load very, very slow. Okay, so 100 MB of data to load your page, it will take some 10 to 15 minutes, okay, in very lower bandwidths. So user can't wait that much of time. So Google made this crash browsing, okay, crash browsing request. Crash browser request means it can send only these three values to a new page, okay, by using XML HTTP object, that is a DOM property. DOM means dynamic object. Okay, dynamic object model that comes in HTML. So by using that property, it requests the browser asynchronously. So this is a synchronous action, that is asynchronous action. Ajax means full form asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So it requests the server asynchronously and gets the data or submits the data asynchronously. So you need not to refresh the page, and the page will get all the data whichever is required at that instance. Means when I click this button, only these three values will be passed to server, and after receiving these values, whatever action performed by the server, the result will be taken back. Okay, so that result will be sent back to the client and that result will be processed. No need to reload this data again, and you need not to reload entire page. That's where Google got very famous and their applications, all the applications they implemented by using Ajax, and that's where they got very popular. That time Yahoo Mail or MSN Mail, okay, your live accounts, whatever emails were there at that time, so they were doing entire page post back. Means they will reload for every click. Even now you can see few applications, whatever you click, your page will be reloads. Okay, that thing they reduced. Due to that, those Gmail and Google operations were very fast at that moment. People got attracted to that, and Google got very famous. After that, all other major IT companies they recognized the value of Ajax, and they started implementing. Nowadays, whatever modern application you can't see without this Ajax. Okay, so as I'm telling, a very great thing about Ajax, you don't need to bother about that Ajax, implementing the Ajax and other things. So Microsoft always user developer as well as user friendly. They make the job of developers very very easy. Okay, that's where people are normally programmers are attracted to ASP.NET technologies, and even applications are developed very fastly on .NET. So we will see how this Ajax is implemented in ASP.NET. Okay, so by using script, so as I told XML HTTP object, that is a DOM object, and the name itself Ajax means asynchronous JavaScript and XML means you have to request the server through Ajax only. So this Ajax creates an object of type XML HTTP or XHTTP that depends on your browser type. Okay, so these objects it will create, and it needs only the URL where to send the request. So it will send the request and gets the response back. Just calling a method, just like that. So and you need the response will be in XML format at the earlier stages. Now the response is in JSON format also, the Ajax response. So no need to bother about that. So all these things when the Google or other technologies they implemented, they have to manually create based on the browser. So I told two object types. One is XML HTTP, another is XHTTP. So these are two types of objects. XML HTTP object is supported by your IE browser. XHTTP Mozilla Chrome or other browsers. Okay, you have to decide on which browser the application is running. Okay, the application is getting access on which browser. Based on that, you need to initialize an object for that class, and then you have to make the request. And once the request you send, if any error occurs, you have to handle that error. If it is success, the response will be in either XML or JSON format. So you have to process that XML or JSON response, you have to parse, and you have to take appropriate actions after that. So all this headache is taken care by your ASP.NET Ajax extensions. So all these extensions on ASP.NET you can see on a page. Okay, I will create a new page to explain this. Okay, add a new web form. Okay, Ajax practice I'm giving. Okay, so this one is supported by your Ajax extensions are here. Okay, so you have script manager proxy, timer, update panel, and update progress bar. Okay, update progress. Okay, these are primarily five controls. This pointer, this is nothing. There is no need about this. So remaining all five controls. Okay, these five controls are very very important for Ajax extensions. So these make your normal ASPX page as a when you add these controls to your page, that will make your page as Ajax enabled. Okay, so you need not to write a single line of code. You just need to place these controls on your page. So to work with Ajax on your AXPX pages, you have to keep this script manager very first. What is script manager is this script manager client script functionality of Microsoft Ajax library. So as I told earlier, all the this XML HTTP, XHTTP, this kind of heading. So on which browser your application is running, which browser your application is accessing. So this information automatically, so the script manager handles and it generates the required object and it sends the request automatically to which URL you have to send. You need not to take care about anything. You just need to keep this script manager on top of your page. That too, very first control. It should be very first control under your form tag. Okay, in your ASPX page, right after your form tag, okay, inside your form tag, the very first control should be your script manager control. Okay, what it will do is it will automatically it will automatically makes all the functions in your page Ajax enabled. Okay, whatever Ajax operations you want to perform, this control is very important. Without this control, you cannot work with any of the Ajax extensions or controls. Okay, that is the script manager, and you can include whatever JavaScript files are there. Okay, scripts. You can add all your script files, JavaScript files. You can refer it here. Okay, and even services, whatever web services are there, you can use it here. Okay, there are many things, but the simple is you just need to add this script manager tag right after your form tag. Okay, next. Okay, so what I will do is after that I will add an update panel. So what is this update panel? So this update panel is nothing but whatever you keep inside it. Earlier we saw on browser. So if I click this one, the page is getting refreshed. Okay, if I keep those controls inside a update panel, the click event won't refresh your page. Okay, means the request will be submitted asynchronously. Okay, so the script, your script manager makes it that identifies an update panel is there, and inside that update panel you have to keep content template. Inside this content template you can add whatever controls you want. Okay, just let me add a table here. Okay, let me add a table. Okay, this is my table. Here I will type first name. I will add a text box. Last name. I'm going to add a text box here. That I will add a button. BTN add I am doing. So when I click on this code script manager, what I will do is I will comment these codes. Okay, these tags initially. We'll see what will happen. So commenting, you need not to bother about this commenting. You just select a line you want to comment. Okay, so after that, you can see on Visual Studio top, there is comment and uncomment sections. You can click on this, it will comment that line. Okay, and next to that is uncomment. you can uncomment it. The syntax and other things need not to bother about that. Okay, it will take care automatically. Or else keyboard shortcut is Control KC for comment and uncomment is Control KU. Okay, now we will run this application and we will see what will happen without this script tag and other things. So if you observe this page refreshes. Okay, you can identify on the tab, right? By tab, if you see, there is some rotation is happening. So that is the page is refreshing. So if I enable these things, okay, now I'm refreshing this page. Okay, now I will click. You can see there is no refresh on this page. See, there is no refreshes happening. So normally to handle all these things in any PHP or JSP or plain HTML also you can implement Ajax, but to implement that much functionality is very very hard. You need to write lengthy lines of codes to implement this. But Microsoft that made this very simple. Normally, how you are developing a ASPX page, the same way you are developing your Ajax extensions. Okay, that's what update panel. And then update progress bar is during this action. So when this update panel, okay, so when you click on this button, it takes some time to execute. Okay, during that time, threading, during that time, so you may be getting somewhere. So if you are uploading an image, if you are uploading some video, or if you are performing some action, it will say below some text like processing, or even Gmail you can see it is loading, it says loading, some progress bar comes. So that kind of things you can implement by using your update progress bar. Okay, if you drag and drop this progress bar here, and inside that it will also have progress template. Here you can say processing, and the target control ID, associate update panel ID, you can give the update panel whichever I have it here. Okay, so I think this one came inside update panel, so we have to keep it outside. Okay, so I have done the thread to sleep 10,000 milliseconds. This is threading concept of C sharp. This is not that much important as of now. Okay, so I'm going to run this. So when I click on button add, you can see processing. This one is coming. Once the action is completed, this processing will be gone automatically. So 10,000 milli, so that's gone. Okay, and your page is not refreshing. So if page is refreshing means user may be notified that user can understand that some action is going on. But when in Ajax, if it is not showing anything, just you clicked and the page is idle, nowhere, no sign. So to show user that something is going on, you can implement this progress bar and it shows some processing, or even the loading icon, some loading icon you can see, right? Whenever the YouTube video is loading, it shows some dots are circulating. Okay, that kind of images also you can keep inside update progress bar. That is update progress bar. After that, we have timer control. So timer control is it will execute on a timely manner some event. Okay, so what I will do is this timer control, I will drag and drop it here, and it has an event. Okay, so I keep a label here. So this timer control, I will keep it in my update panel, and then I kept some label here, and this one is having this label properties LBL time I will put. Okay, when some event occurs, LBL time. So this one came text. The very first time, what I will do is, okay, this is what I am assigning to my label.text. I will run and see, and this timer interval you can set. The interval is 6000 milliseconds, 60,000 milliseconds now. I want to give it as 6000 milliseconds. That's enough for me. We'll see. So we are running this. So you can see the time is getting changed. So the time came next time again 12. The time is changing. You can see that. Okay, for every 6 seconds the timer is getting executed. Okay, you can implement some periodic actions. Okay, if you want to refresh some content, so maybe on your web page you are displaying some cricket score, and if you want to refresh that score or you want to get that score for every 5 seconds, you can use this timer control. All these are basic Ajax controls. Apart from that, we have many Ajax controls. Okay, all these are available. Earlier, this one was maintained by Microsoft itself. Now they stopped maintaining this because all these controls are available in jQuery or latest frameworks. Okay, client-side libraries. Many libraries are there. AngularJS, jQuery, Kendo UI, something are many are there. So all these are supporting by default. They are giving this kind of controls. So Microsoft stopped support for these controls, and DevExpress. Okay, so if you see this, DevExpress is maintaining this toolkit. Okay, all these controls you can see the syntax and everything from this URL. ajaxcontroltoolkit.com is the site. Accordion means something like this. All these controls you might have seen on any website, maybe any some websites you might have seen. Okay, in your day-to-day browsing you might have seen somewhere on some website these kind of controls. Okay, how to implement and how to add this, everything is there. Okay, once you install from download, go to download from here. So maintained by DevExpress. So if you download this version and install, it automatically adds, okay, some controls to your page. Right under your toolbox you can see Ajax control toolkit. Whatever are there, okay, the same controls whatever are here, the same controls are available here. Even more, the bar chart, bubble chart, these are not here. Okay, this site also migrated to the DevExpress. So completely it is maintained by DevExpress, a third party one. How long they will maintain this, that also we don't know. Okay, but these are very useful controls. It reduces your development efforts very hugely. Okay, just drag and drop those controls, they will provide all the means of the code for you. Okay, after that we have HTTP handlers and modules. These are very important means for interview purpose. These handlers and modules, this level of coding will be done by some senior persons, but for your interview purpose, these are very important. Okay, what is HTTP handler? What is HTTP module? So HTTP handler means in our ASP.NET page, as I told, we have master page, ASPX page, and user control ASCX page. So all these have different types of file types or file extensions. So if you see those pages, so that these pages something have dot master, dot cs, dot aspx, dot ascx, and dot asam, asax, dot config. Different types of files are there. So all these files, whenever you request for a particular type of file, that extension, that type of file will be executed, or the request for a particular file will be served by your HTTP handler. Okay, so if you are, so a simple example for this, you can see watermarks on some images. Watermarks means some, I can say some model. Okay, some calendar. So some calendar like Kingfisher calendar, you can see on that calendar they will display some beautiful girls images. So on those images they will put across Kingfisher name, that is watermark, like that is printed on those photos. So that kind of feature you can implement by using HTTP handlers. So watermark feature is there, that is a separate coding. Okay, that is a coding, but whenever a particular for an image on your website, a request came for a image. So you are maintaining all top Bollywood actors photo galleries on your website, and nobody wants to copy your images. If they copy also, you want to maintain your website name or your brand with those photos. What you can do is you can write your name on those photos across. That is called watermark. So that watermark can be implemented. Those code snippets you can get online, but where to put that code snippet is, you can create a HTTP handler on your ASP.NET site. When a request for .jpg or .png file comes, this code snippet will execute and it prints that text on that photo. Okay, so this is very simple. Okay, public class my handler, you have to derive it from IHTTP handler, and you can declare whatever properties you want, and you have the method like process request. Okay, so and so the handler, so if you are defining only one handler handles one particular type of file. Okay, if you one request, one handler will handle. Okay, so means whenever a request for any image file comes, that will be handled by only one handler. Your application can have n number of handlers, but only one handler will execute or process the incoming request at a time. Okay, the respective handler will take the request and it process that request. That is HTTP handler. Okay, if you see the image right side, bottom right side, okay, this says, so whenever a request comes, that request will be handled by a single handler. But whereas the modules, all the modules will execute that particular request. Okay, so that is handler, and the syntax is very simple, and you need to register your handler with your web application in web.config file like this. So you can have HTTP handler section, add verb. Okay, supported verbs means this can be your HTTP or FTP, whatever request you are making to whatever protocol you are using to your website. Okay, those verbs you can keep, and path, what path, where they can the path means the file path. from where the file where you have written the file, and then type of the assembly means the class name. So in my previous slide I have kept my handler, the class name. So that class name you have to give. Assembly means if you are keeping that handler in any other assembly, you can keep that. Okay, and then HTTP handler ends. So like that you can add as many handlers as you want. Okay, like that you can declare your HTTP handlers. HTTP modules means these modules are mainly used to validate user request. So validating means the scenarios, maybe like you want to implement authentication. Okay, so whether means the membership authentication, Windows authentication, Forms authentication. Okay, so the Windows authentication mainly happens in your HTTP modules only. Okay, all those modules will execute one by one. So that request is valid request or not, the user, and then if anything vulnerability is there, so that kind of things you can handle in your modules. You can have n number of modules in your application. All modules will execute, all modules will process the incoming requests, whereas handler it handles, so one request one handler, but all the modules. Okay, your request has to process through all the modules, but one handler at a time. Okay, when to use HTTP modules? Security. You can see the main feature of modules is security, because we can examine incoming requests, and HTTP module can be perform custom authentication, okay, or other security checks before requested page. So XML web services handler is called an internet information server running in integrated mode. So mainly security reasons you can implement your HTTP modules, and all the modules will validate your request, then only they will provide access to the requested resource. So the syntax for this is also very easy. So my HTTP module, it derives from iHTTP module, and it will have the derived method, the public void initialize. So you are initializing your module, and the input object is HTTP application as we discussed in page lifecycle. So your ASP net underscore is app, okay, ISAP will create a new HTTP application. That context will be, that object will be sent to your HTTP modules. They will process this request. Okay, so these handlers and modules, these are important, but these are where these two are important means when you are implementing very secure websites. That time handlers and modules are important, but interview purpose, these two are required. Okay, so guys, we are done with a total course. Okay, so tomorrow we will have a closing class. So whatever doubts you have, we can discuss regarding your WinForms project or web applications project, and even we will discuss about some technical concepts. Okay, some guidelines I will provide, and even we'll discuss about whatever you want. Okay, so any doubts, or you guys are clear? So okay guys, so we will meet tomorrow. Okay, have a nice day. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.